What's going on, guys? K-Pine here and welcome back. And in this video I'll be featuring 3 newly buffed Pokemon in the Great League: Fortress with Bug Bite, Shadow Gligar with Fury Cutter, and Shadow Kanto Ninetales with Ember. Fortress for a little while has been that off-meta or anti-meta pick, but with Bug Bite now dealing more damage, it's catapulted this Mon up the rankings, and let me tell you, it's deserving of that jump. Then there's Shadow Gligar with Fury Cutter, becoming a Psywave clone. This Pokemon is back, and it is good. Now comes the Mon that I feel is slept on a bit with this update: Shadow Kanto Ninetales. Ember had its energy generation increased, where this Pokemon has good pacing to charge moves, deals out good damage, and can take a hit. I feel like there definitely is a spot for this Pokemon in the meta, especially with all the bug and steel types around. So in this video, I'll be featuring a nice little 10-0 run I had with the team in earlier ranks. And with that, let's get right into the battles. Alright, getting to the first battle, we lead Fortress into Magcargo. This is an absolutely terrible lead and just an atrocious Mon for this team to see. We're going to save swap into that Shadow Gligar and they come in a regular Gator. Now, I did not know that whether it's a regular Gator or a Shadow Gator, up a single Fury Cutter, Shadow Gligar can actually win this matchup in the 2s straight Aerial Ace. I thought that was only if it was a Shadow, so that I was going to have to land a Dig at some point, which is why you saw me go for the Dig there at first. But realistically, I can just go straight Aerial Ace here and guarantee switch advantage. So I do land that Ace, and in landing that, I can shield this Hydro and get the Fury Cutter down. I do end up going down 2 shields, knowing that I need to get the Fortress off of that, and that if they come back in the Magcargo here, I will be able to threaten it with the double super effective Dig, but they don't. They come in with their Grumpig, and the reason why I bank that energy then swap out into Ninetales is knowing that if they decide to stay in with Grumpig there, then I have all of that energy on my Gligar to threaten a shield from my opponent and to even threaten the knockout. And if they swap out and they bring in their Magcargo here, my Ninetales will be able to make the Psyshocks like you saw, force the shields, or get rid of it. And now with the Magcargo out of the way, there's nothing that this opposing Grumpig can do. My opponent does end up getting DRE there for the last Rock Tomb. A little bit unfortunate, but it is not going to matter as Fortress is an absolute tank. Look at this, hangs on from that dynamic punch. I can swap into my Gligar, and I was thinking about just going for a fast move down. And I'm like, wait, I'm basically at the back-to-back Aerial Aces from all of that energy I stored earlier. So I can fire off one Aerial Ace for the shield and the second one to get the KO as down goes to Grumpig and we take the game. GG's. Next battle, Fortress into Blastoise. A little bit of an interesting matchup here, but that's what Fortress's specialty is in: interesting matchups. It just outbulks and outlasts basically everything. I do give up a shield to the first Hydro Cannon, knowing that the next ones will do less damage, and I go to fire off that Rock Tomb, but my opponent makes a nice catch in their Clodsire. And while that's not great, that's not terrible either, because I do have my Shadow Gligar here to completely shut this down. And especially after Rock Tomb debuffing them, these Stone Edges won't be able to two-shot us. So we can land the first Dig, tank the second Stone Edge, and then farm up a ton of energy. You can look for the farm down, but we won't be able to get that just because of how bulky Clodsire is, and then go for this Aerial Ace to knock them out right before they reach their third Stone Edge. Back in comes a Blastoise, and I'm gonna fire off this Aerial Ace here. See what my opponent wants to do. They give up their shield, and then I'm gonna pivot. I don't want to give up a rollout down, knowing that I have the Ninetales in the back, and that Fortress is a little bit slower pacing to its moves. So I'm just gonna pivot out, save my Shadow Gligar for later. And they come in with a Guzzlord, and look at those Bug Bites just shred through that Guzzlord. Guzzlord just gets absolutely deleted. Back in comes the Blastoise, and I know that I can actually shield this and reach another Rock Tomb, and in doing so I ensure that my Ninetales survives the rollouts plus a Hydro Cannon to make a Weather Ball in the end game. Because like we said, Ninetales is a very good generalist. It hits hard, Not really hard, but hits hard enough. And it has okay bulk. It's not bulky, it's not glassy, it has okay bulk. There, I don't even need to be able to tank that move because then we make the catch. But even if I failed the catch, I was perfectly fine because one Hydro Cannon, especially debuffed, does not take out the Shadow Kanto Ninetales from there. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, Fortress into Blastoise yet again. You can see my opponent places out the same, tries to make a catch, or if they stay in. I'm gonna load up on energy. They fire off the Hydro right before I reach the Rock Tomb. So I will give up a shield, play this like I did last time. 2 Bug Bites in the Tomb. Opponent does not swap out in this instance. So this Rock Tomb will land unless my opponent decides to give up a shield. They don't. And my opponent is kind of forced to swap out there because if they stay in, I can take the next Hydro and then Bug Bite them all the way down and leave with a ton of energy. So by swapping out into their Shadow Kanto Marowak, this ensures that it's away from my Canine, while I'm also double resisting those Mud Slaps. So I do tank 1 Rock Slide, fire up, load up, fire off another Aerial Ace before their next Rock Slide. I'm hoping this plus the Fury Cutters will do enough. It's not, but my opponent gets DRE again. It seems like a lot, at least this season so far, that my opponents have been getting DRE a lot more consistently. I don't know if they push something through with the update or not, but we shall see as more time develops. Now my opponent, as you'll see there, swaps into brings in the Blastoise. Hydro lands, we get the Bug Bite down, and they have a Jump Bluff him back. So even if we didn't get that Rock Tomb debuff off, we were in a great spot. But with that debuff, that game is well over, as my opponent does concede. GG's. Fortress into Mandibuzz. Another decent lead here, as they're hitting for neutral these Bug Bites. And look at that. This is a very bulky Mandibuzz, and those Bug Bites are actually starting to shred and add up through the Mandy. It's kind of crazy. My opponent swaps into Gastro. I bring in my Shadow Gligar. I'm thinking, man, why are they safe swapping a Gastro? I let it go, and the second I let it go, it's like, no way they're on Water Pulse. They are on Water Pulse. That absolutely rocks the Shadow Gligar. I'm going to go for this dig here. It does get shielded, and now I'm going to get a little greedy, try and get the dig, but of course I do not get DRE. We go down with the move. Probably should have just settled for the ace there, especially seeing what I have in the back, since that little bit of chip damage would have been very nice. But either way, we survive their pulse, get to this Earthquake to take out the Gastrodon. They have a Fortress, and oh, these double super effective Embers are about to shred it. Look at the Fortress just completely disappear. Now, if I needed to, Kanto Ninetales can tank a Rock Tomb from the Fortress, but it will do a lot of damage. So I will shield it up and just start spamming off these Weather Balls against the Mandibuzz. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, so I'll do it now, that I'm running Rock Tomb Earthquake on my Fortress. You could run Rock Tomb Sand Tomb for the debuff of the opponent's defense as well, but I kind of prefer the Earthquake on the Fortress, because that kind of allows you to like guarantee shield or switch advantage in a lot of different situations, where you can get those debuffs and go through with the Rock Tomb spam, or you can just kind of nuke them with that Earthquake and get alignment if you so please. It's coming clutch a lot throughout these battles. GG's my opponent there. Fortress into regular Gligar. We're just going to stay in and start spamming off these Rock Tombs. I just like to play out the zero shield scenario here, because it's kind of like, what are you going to shield? Dig isn't the hardest hitting move. Aerial Ace isn't the hardest hitting move. And at the same time, they're not the like softest hitting moves either. So it's kind of a little bit of an awkward situation. But we do tank that move, go for the Stone Edge, or the Rock Tomb, excuse me. And it looks like the Bug Bites plus 2 Rock Tombs are enough to KO the Gligar. Opponent goes for another Aerial Ace there. We're loading up. They swap into a Corsola. I noticed that swap, but I also wanted to land this Rock Tomb because I can't really come in my Gligar with the resisted Fury Cutters. And if I come in my Kanto Ninetales, they can kind of like threaten with the Power Gems, which as you'll see here. And if they're debuffed, I thought that they were kind of less likely to bait on with the Nightshade and just go straight Power Gem. But what do I know? My opponent baits anyways. And either way, I do get to start spamming off these Weather Balls. Second one does get a shield from my opponent, and that's kind of got me thinking then that, hey, if they're shielding their Galarian Corsola this low, then maybe my Canine's going to be really good into whatever they have in the back. So I do preserve it. They hard swap into that Gligar. I bring in my Fortress, tank the dig, and now I'm going to come with my own Gligar and get a very nice Fury Cutter down. See what their final Pokemon is. They bring it in, and it's a Dedenne. We reach for the dig. My opponent spares their Dedenne, and they do concede. GG's. Next battle. Fortress into Claydol. Claydol is definitely on the back burner this season. With all the buffs to bug types, it is very tough to run it right now. And considering all the buffs to bug types have brought ghosts a lot more prevalent into the meta. So Claydol's kind of just getting hard countered left and right currently. They safe swap into a Furret, and I know that I also have a really good matchup here into the Furret with the Fortress, and that I don't need to swap out, because as long as I maintain switch, I will be able to guarantee that Claydol gets onto my Gligar as well, of which Gligar dominates Claydol too. So in those kind of lead situations where it's like you have a great lead and your opponent swaps out into something, and you read, okay, one of my Pokemon in the back is also really strong against their lead Pokemon, I don't need to swap out of this just because my opponent swapped. Especially if it's like a good swap for you too, like the Fortress into that Furret. You just make sure you get swapped there and put your back Mon on their lead Mon, and you're good to go. Now here they have yet another Dedenne. My opponent goes for the Parabolic Charge to boost up their defense. I'm going to go for an Aerial Ace Bait. I'm looking at, they have 2 shields. They're going to want to protect this Dedenne, especially since that they can bring up their defense. So we successfully do get the Aerial Ace Bait. Bring in our Canine. Tank this Parabolic Charge. As you'll see there, it does a decent amount of damage, but Canine, props to you. Kind of like respectfully hanging on. Like, I didn't really think before this season that Canine had as much bulk as it did, but the more I've been using it, it's doing a good job here. Back in comes the Dedenne. We can shield this next Parabolic Charge, and we're just going to fast move down at this point, as we do get the Ember down before they get the Thunder Shock down. Plus, we still had our Gligar alive in the back, as we are able to take that one. GG's. Fortress into Nidoqueen, another kind of side grade Pokemon this season, being given access to Poison Sting. You know, does less damage for Poison Jab, but generates energy quicker. So we're going to see how this matchup plays out here, as my opponent does go for the Stone Edge. That's a heavy hitting move. But fortunately for us, we do outpace to this Earthquake before they reach their second Stone Edge. And this is another thing. A lot of people are expecting the Sand Tomb, Rock Tomb Earthquake. So their Earthquake gets to like sneak by often and get that switch advantage. In comes Dedenne. They land that Parabolic Charge. I have a good answer for it in the Shadow Gligar. We do outpace to this Dig before they reach their Play Rough. See, my opponent decides to shield it. They do. And now I'm thinking like, hey, I have 2 shields, but it's Parabolic Charge that's really risky to throw. They're probably not going to bait, and they end up baiting. But that's okay, as I know that one Play Rough won't be able to knock me out anyways. So I do let the second one go through. They bring in a Lickitung, and yeah, Lickitung is still not good. Even though it's been given access to Wrap, which guarantees like drops your defense. Lickitung's still not good. It's just slow pacing. Body Slam was the 12 turns, 11 turns to get to, while for Wrap, it's just straight 15 turns. So while it's very bulky, it's just Lickitung is just not where it wants to be yet currently, to being back to that top meta staple. My Canine is just barely able to hang on and reach a 3rd Weather Ball. Absolutely clutch. Takes out the Licky. We're able to combo play and land this Dig against the Dedenne, which does one-shot it, as we still have a shield and 2 Pokemon remaining. GG's. Next battle, Fortress into Morpeko. Dominant lead for us, and we have a great answer for it in the back as well with the Shadow Gligar. They swap into a Cradily, and same thing. My opponent is APA Core Broken to this Fortress, and same thing with that Claydol Furret matchup you saw earlier. This is a dominant lead where I have an answer to it in the lead and in the back, and they swap it as something that loses to my lead as well. So I can just stay in guarantee that switch advantage, and then put my Shadow Gligar on their lead Pokemon, which in this case is that Dedenne. Or that Morpeko, excuse me. Both electric mouse Pokemon are gonna confuse me this season, I can already tell. They bring in Skarmory. I don't know why I hard swap there. I was thinking, oh, like my Fortress is also fairly healthy, I can save it, and if they stay in with their Skarmory, then my Fortress guarantee just continues to bug bite through that Morpeko. But realistically, I should have just let my Fortress go down, you know, landed a Rock Tomb, let it go down, put my Ninetales on the Skarmory, and then my Gligar onto that Morpeko. Granted, we were in a pretty good spot either way, but that's the more surefire way to have gone about things. So another Aerial Ace here. My opponent does let it go. Now I can swap Combo Play into my Fortress. Get off this Rock Tomb. Does get their shield. They let it go. And oh, they're going to be very, very sad when they see that I have my Shadow Kanto Ninetales in the back. Opponent undercharges, trying to get a Steel Wing down. They do. Very nice undercharge by them, but it is for naught as the K9 is able to Ebert down that Skarmory. GG's. Fortress into Dragalge, another buffed Pokemon from this season, being given access to Acid. Acid is a Shadow Claw clone, if I remember correctly, but it does absolutely no damage in this matchup because Acid is double resisted due to Fortress's Steel typing. And Aqua Tail being non-stab does pretty poor damage to Fortress as well. So even though our Bug Bites are resisting them, it's still a pretty dominant matchup for the Fortress, especially since we have that Earthquake. My opponent safe swaps into a Gliscopod. I don't have the best answer for it, so I just kind of counter swap into my Shadow Gligar. We tank that Aqua Jet a little bit better than I thought we would. It lets us reach 2 Aerial Aces, which is extremely nice there. So we can get both shields from my opponent, bring back in the Fortress, land that Rock Tomb. They come and Drifblim him, and I know that I'm in a good spot the second I see this Drifblim. Because if they're on Icy Wind Shadow Ball, this is only an Icy Wind and I can let it go. And if they're on Mystical Fire, then so be it. Shadow Canine will still be able to sweep anyways, because we are on that Psyshock. So I can shield up this Aqua Tail, fire off the Psyshock right before their next Aqua Tail. Probably could have played to the CMP tie there, would have been a little bit better to get that extra energy, but it is okay. In comes the Drifblim. I go for the Weather Ball here. I may be thinking about getting to 2 Weather Balls, but seeing how much damage that did, should have just gone for the Psyshock, because even though they're both neutral, if you're only going to get to 1 move, Psyshock does do just a little bit more damage. Fortunately, we do hang on anyways, as that was not enough for Shadow Ball, and Shadow Kanto Ninetales is able to take that one. GG's. Next battle, Primeape. A little bit of an interesting lead here, as you know, they are glassy and these Bug Bites start to chip through, but we are dealing resisted damage with both our fast move and our charge move. And here you see me reaching for that Earthquake. They do go for double Rage Fist and not the CC there, which is fine. So I build up to the Earthquake, and now I'm going to bait with the Rock Tomb. It's a double boosted Primeape on a low health Mon that's starting to move. They're most likely going to shield, which they do. So we correctly get that debuff off. Now I can bring in my Shadow Gligar, start loading up on energy. I respect the potential Ice Punch. It ends up just being a close combat. That is good info to have for later. Oh, they bring in a Gliscopod. I land that Ace. And I was hoping that once I land that Ace, I'd be able to Fury Cutter down this pod before their second Aqua Jet, but it just does not look like that's going to be the case. So I will fire off the second Ace before their second Aqua Jet. Does get their shield. I swap to try and catch or snipe. We get the snipe because, again, Bug Bite does do more damage than the Fury Cutters. In comes the Shadow Golurk, and oh, this is going to hurt, but Shadow Gligar will be able to hang on. We reach that dig, and this is gonna hurt right back. Dig coming through, lands massive damage onto that Shadow Golurk. We get the Fury Cutter down, but as soon as that dig landed, this game was over because Primeape hits hard, but not hard enough, as K9 can survive a close combat. My opponent doesn't even reach it, as K9 does get the Ember down. GG's. I hope these battles were a good showcase as to the strengths that each of these mons provide, and I would expect to see them around a decent amount this season. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.